Good morning. Welcome to Books by Ivan. My name is Ivan and I read books. Today we'll be diving into the incredible mind of Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This is a book that is said to be one of his greatest work. A book that is hailed for its deep and profound knowledge. A book that took an entire month to get here. A book that I have high hopes for and hope that it doesn't disappoint. With that being said, let me ask you a few questions. Should I kill myself or have a cup of coffee? Make yourself comfortable. Grab a cup of coffee and let's die together. This is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. White Nights, a sentimental love story from the memoirs of a dreamer. The first night. It was a wonderful night. The kind of night, dear reader, which is only possible when we are young. The sky was starry. It was such a bright sky that looking at it, you could not help but ask yourself, is it really possible for the bad-tempered and capricious people to live under such a sky? That is also a young person's question. Dear reader, a very young person's question, but may the Lord ask it of your heart more often. Speaking of capricious and sundry bad-tempered gentlemen, I could not help but recall my own commendable conduct throughout the whole day. From early morning, an astonishing melancholy has started to torment me. It suddenly seemed that I, so alone, was being abandoned by everyone. That everyone was deserting me. Well, of course, anyone is entitled to ask, who is everyone? Because I've been living in Petersburg 8 years now and I've hardly been able to make a single acquaintance. But what do I need acquaintances for? I am acquainted with all of Petersburg as it is. That's why it seemed to me that everyone was abandoning me when all of Petersburg suddenly up and left for their dachas. I was terrified of being left alone. And for 3 whole days, I wandered about the city in a state of deep melancholy, not understanding in the least what was happening to me. No matter whether I went to Nevsky Prospect or the park or wandered along the embankment, there wasn't a single person of those whom I've been accustomed to meet for a year now in the same place at a certain time. Of course they don't know me, but I know them. I know them intimately. I have practically learned their face by heart, and I admire them when they are cheerful, and I'm crestfallen when they grow sad. I almost struck up a friendship with a certain little old man, whom I meet every blessed day at a certain hour on the Fontanka. His face is so dignified and thoughtful. He is always whispering under his breath and gesticulating with his left hand, while in his right hand he holds a long, gnarled working stick with a golden knob. He has even noticed me and shows a cordial concern for me. Should it happen that I'm not at the same place on the Fontanka at a certain hour, I'm positive that he will be crestfallen. That's why we sometimes almost greet each other, particularly when we're both in a good mood. The other day, when we had not seen each other for 2 whole days and met on the third day. We almost reached for our hats, but thank goodness we came to our senses in time, lowered our hands, and pressed each other in by sympathy. I also have houses that are my acquaintances. As I walk, it's as if each one I come to runs out into the streets in front of me, looks out at me with its window wide open and almost says, "Hello, how do you do?" And I, thank God, am well. But in May, they are going to add a floor to me. Or, how do you do? And I'm having some repairs done tomorrow. Or, I almost burned down and I was so scared, and so forth. Those are what, in case you didn't get that, the houses were talking to him. I have favorites amongst them. Some are intimate friends. One of them intends to be treated by an architect this summer. I'll make it a point to drop by every day so that, God forbid, they don't kill it in the process. But I will never forget what happened to a certain very pretty, light pink little house. It was such a sweet little stone house. It looked at me so cordially and so haughtily at its ungainly neighbors that my heart would rejoice when I chanced to walk past. Suddenly, last week, I was walking down the street and upon turning to look at my friend, I heard a plaintive cry. "But they're going to paint me yellow. The scoundrels! Barbarians!" Despaired nothing. Neither the columns nor the cornices. And my friend had turned as yellow as a canary. I almost had an attack of jaundice myself, and to this day I do not have the strength to see my poor disfigured friend who was painted the color of the celestial empire. So now you understand, reader, how I am acquainted with Adolf Petersburg. I have already said that for 3 whole days I was tormented with anxiety until I guessed the reason for it. And on the streets, I was in a bad way. This one's gone, that one's gone, where so and so got to. And I wasn't myself at home either. For 2 evenings, I tried to put a finger on what it was I found wanting in my room. Why was I so uncomfortable staying there? And with bewilderment, I examined my grain, sooty walls, and the ceiling from which hung a cobweb that Matriona had been cultivating with such resounding success. I looked over all my furnitures, examined every chair, wondering if that was the problem. I looked out the window, but it was all in vain. I didn't feel any better. I even took it into my head to summon Matriona and give her there and then a fatherly reprimand for the cobweb and for her slovenliness in general. But she merely looked at me in amazement and walked away, without a word in response, so that the cobweb hangs there safe and sound to this day. It was only this morning that I finally guessed what the matter was. Oh, why they're all making off to their dakas and leaving me behind? Forgive the tribal style, but I am not up to lofty turns of speech because, you see, everybody in Petersburg had either moved or is moving to their dacha because after hiring a cab, every venerable gentleman of a solid appearance was immediately transformed before my eyes into a venerable father of a family. After his daily official duties sets off without luggage to the bosom of his family at the dacha, because every passerby now has a quiet, special air about him, which all but says to every person he meets, "Gentlemen, I'm only here in passing, but in every 2 hours, I'm leaving for my dacha." If a window opens, upon which slender fingers as white as sugar had just drummed, and out leans the head of a pretty girl who calls to a peddler with jugs of flowers, I immediately, there and then, imagine that these flowers are being brought not simply so as to take pleasure in the spring and flowers in a stuffy city apartment, but because everybody is moving to their dacha and they will take in the flowers with them. Moreover, I had already made such stride in my new special sort of discovery that I could already unwringly identify on the basis of appearance alone where their dacha was located. The resident of Kameni and Abekarsky Island or the Peterhof Road were distinguished by the studied elegance of their movement and their foppish summer suits and the handsome carriages that brought them to the city. The inhabitants of Bargolovo and further out at first glance inspired one with their prudence and respectability. The visitor to Dostoyevsky Island was distinguished by his unruffled, cheerful air. Whether I managed to run into a long procession of carters holding the reins as they lazily walked along their carts loaded with whole mountains of furniture of every description, table, chairs, couches, both Turkish and non-Turkish, and other household goods and chattels, on which, on top of every frequently would be sitting at the very summit of the load, the wizened cook, keeping watch over her master's good as the apple of her eye, whether I looked at the boats, heavily laden with household utensils as they glided down the Neva or Fontanka to Chernaya River or the islands. The carts and boats increased tenfold, 100 before my very eyes. It seemed as though everything had up and left, that whole caravans had moved to the dacha. It seemed that all of Petersburg threatened to turn into a desert, so that in the end I became ashamed, hurt, and sad. I had absolutely nowhere to go and no reason to go to a dacha. I was ready to leave with every cart, to drive off with every gentleman of venerable appearance was hiring a cabby. But no one, absolutely no one invited me. It was as if I indeed was a stranger to them. I had been working a lot for a long time and had already completely succeeded, as was my wont, in forgetting where I was, and when I suddenly found myself at the city gate, I cheered up in an instant and stepped to the other side of the barrier. Walked between the south field and the meadow, oblivious of my fatigue, but sensing with all my being that some burden was being lifted from my soul. All the passers-by looked at me so cordially that we practically bowed to one another. Everybody was so happy about something. Every last one was smoking a cigar, and I was happy as I had never been before. It was as if I had suddenly found myself in Italy. Nature had so strongly affected me, a semi-invalid city dweller who had almost died of suffocation within the city's wall. There is something inexplicably touching in our Petersburg nature, when with the advent of spring, she suddenly displays all her might, all the powers granted her by heaven. When she bursts into leaves, dressed herself up, and decked herself out in colorful flowers. Somehow, I can't help but be reminded of that weak and sickly girl at whom you sometimes look with pity, sometimes with compassionate love, and sometimes you simply do not notice her. But then suddenly, for a moment, she somehow unexpectedly becomes inexplicably wonderfully beautiful, and you, startled and intoxicated, unwittingly ask yourself, what power caused those sad, thoughtful eyes to shine with such fire? What summoned the blood to those pale, sunken cheeks? What has suffused those tender features of her face with passion? Why does that breast heave so? What was it that so suddenly summoned strength, life, and beauty to the poor girl's face, and he began to shine with such a smile, came to life with such a sparkling, effervescent laugh? You look around, you search for someone, you hazard a guess. But the moment passes, and perhaps tomorrow you will once again meet the same thoughtful and distracted gaze as before. The same pale face, the same submissive and timid movements, and even repentance, even traces of some sort of deadening melancholy and annoyance at the short-lived exhilaration. My God, my face is shining. And you regret that the momentary beauty faded so quickly, so irretrievably, that it flashed before you so deceptively, and in vain. You regret this because there was no time for you even to fall in love with her. But nevertheless, my night was better than my day. Here's what happened. Before we go any further, let's have a cup of coffee. Dark roast is the best. And let's reflect on what we've read so far. Something I've been thinking as I'm reading this, right, is who is the lady that's doing the... Where is it? Okay, I find it really funny that he's talking to houses. I understand that he feels like everyone is leaving him, right? That's a feeling that each and every single one of us have felt one point or another. Everyone. And I like how the cute little pink house was mad because she was being painted yellow. And the part about like the spider web, was it the spider web? Yeah, for some reason I thought he was talking to the actual spider, you know. But I guess I understood it wrong. I can't find it anymore for some reason. But yeah, that was pretty much the gist of it. I'm sorry about the background noise, by the way. I'm gonna try to reduce the noise as much as I possibly can. But without further ado, let's continue. Here's what happened. I arrived back in the city very late, and it had already struck 10 o'clock. As I approached my apartment, my path ran along the embankment of the canal, where at that hour you will not find a living soul. True, I live in a very remote part of the city. I was walking and singing because when I am happy, I am sure to hum something to myself. Like every other happy man who has neither friends nor good acquaintances, and who, in a joyful moment, has nobody with whom he can share his joy. Suddenly, the most unexpected adventure happened to me. Somewhat to the side, leaning against the railing of the canal, stood a woman. With her elbows resting on the railing, she seemed to be looking very attentively at the canal turbid water. She was wearing a very pretty yellow hat and a bewitching black mantilla. She is a young girl. She just has to be a brunette. I thought. It seemed she had not heard my steps. She didn't even stir when I walked past. With bated breath and with my heart beating violently. Strange, I thought. She may be completely absorbed by something, and suddenly I stopped, rooted to the ground. I had heard a muffled sob. Yes! I hadn't been deceived. The girl was crying, and a minute later, there was another whimper and then another. My God, my heart sank. And no matter how great my timidness with women, this was hardly the time. I turned around, took a step in her direction, and would certainly have uttered the word, "Madam," but for the fact that I knew that this exclamation had already been uttered 1,000 times in all our Russian society novels. That was the only thing that stopped me. But while I was searching for a word, the girl came to her senses, glanced back, recollected where she was, cast her eyes down, and slipped past me along the embankment. She set off after her. I set off after her at once. But when she realized this, she quit the embankment, crossed the streets, and set out walking down the pavement. My heart was fluttering. Don't be a stalker. Please, don't let this turn into like a stalker story. My heart was flustering, like a captured little bird. Suddenly, a certain incident came to my aid. On the sidewalk across the street, not far from my unknown girl, there suddenly appeared a gentleman in evening dress, a man with a solid number of years behind him, but whose gait was anything but solid. He walked, reeling and carefully leaning against the wall. The girl, meanwhile, walked as straight as an arrow, hurriedly and timidly, as girls generally do when they don't want someone to offer to see them home at night. And of course, the tutoring gentleman would never have caught up with her if my good fortune had not given him the idea of looking to natural methods. Suddenly, without saying a word to anyone, my gentleman darts off and flies as fast as his legs will carry him. And running, he catches up with my unknown girl. She was moving, my unknown girl. I need you to slow down, my man. He catches up with my unknown girl. She was moving along like the wind, but the staggering gentleman was overtaking her. He had overtaken her. The girl cried out, and I thank my good fortune for my excellent naughty walking stick, which just happened to be in my right hand on that occasion. In an instant, I found myself on the sidewalk across the streets. In an instant, an invited gentleman understood what was what, took into account my incontrovertible reasons, fell silent, and dropped behind. And only when we were already quite far away did he reproach me in rather energetic terms, but his words scarcely reached us. "Give me your hand," I said to my unknown girl, and he won't dare to bother us anymore. In silence, she gave me her hand, which was still trembling from nervousness and fright. Oh, unbidden gentleman, how grateful I was to you at that moment. I cast a cursory glance at her. She was very pretty and a brunette. I had guessed right. On her black eyelashes still shone the tears of her recent fright or former sorrow. I don't know which. But on her lips, a smile already sparkled. She also cast a furtive glance at me, blushed, and looked down. What do you mean, blushed and looked down? Have you seen what this man looked like? Okay, if you go in my page, right, on like the little banner thing, you will literally see him. Okay, this is Dostoyevsky we're talking about. Great gentleman. Actually, he was kind of handsome, not gonna lie to you. Now and then, you see, why did you drive me away? If I'd been there, nothing would have happened. But I didn't know you. I thought that you too. But do you really know me now? A little bit. Now and then, for example, why are you trembling? Oh, you guessed right from the very first, I answered lightly to my girl, delighted that my girl was clever. That is never a bad thing where beauty is concerned. Yes, you guessed from the very first glance the sort of person you're dealing with. Yes, it's true. It's true, I'm timid with women. I'm nervous, I won't deny it. I'm no less than you were a moment ago, but the gentleman frightened you. I'm frightened now. It's like a dream, but even in my dreams, I never guessed that I will ever talk with a woman. What? Really? I need to put a picture of Dostoyevsky so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Because from what I've seen, right, I've only seen like old pictures of Dostoyevsky. He looked like balding head, really thick, long beard, you know. I need to go and look like younger pictures of him. I want to see what you're talking about. What, really? Yes. If my hand is trembling, then it's because such a pretty, small hand like yours has never clasped it before. I've grown quite unused to women. He is so me right now. He is so me. I've grown quite unused to women. That is, I never became used to them You see, I'm alone. I don't even know how to talk to them. Even now, I don't know whether I've said something stupid to you. Tell me frankly, I should tell you that I don't take offense easily. No, nothing. On the contrary. And since you're already asking me to be candid, then I would tell you that women like such timidity. And if you want to know more, then I like it as well. And I won't send you away until we reach my house. You'll make it so. I began grasping with delight that at once I'll stop being my timid self and then farewell all my methods. Methods? What sort of methods? For what? No, that's not very nice. Guilty. I won't do it anymore. It was a slip of the tongue, but how do you expect me at a moment like this to have no desire? To be liked, is that it? Well, yes. Yes, for God's sake, be kind. Consider who I am. You see, I'm already 26 years old, but I don't ever see anyone. So then, how can I speak well, clearly, and to the point? It would be to your advantage if everything comes out in the open. I don't know how to keep quiet when my heart is speaking inside me. Well, it doesn't matter. Believe it or not a single woman ever, no acquaintances at all. And all I dream every day is that at long last I will finally meet someone. Oh, if only you knew how many times I've fallen in love like that. But how? With whom? Why? With nobody, with an ideal, with the one I see in my dreams. I create entire love stories in my dreams. He is so real. He is so me right now. Oh, you don't know me? It's true, of course, I couldn't help meeting 2 or 3 women. But what sort of women were they? They were all ladies or something like that. But I'll make you laugh when I tell you that several times I have thought of striking up a conversation just like that, without ceremony, with some aristocratic lady on the street when she is alone. It goes without saying to speak, of course, timidly, respectfully, deferentially, ardently, to say that I am perishing all alone. He is so real. Oh my God, I keep on relating to this man talking. What? I am perishing all alone. Feel that? So that she wouldn't drive me away. That I don't have the means to get to know any woman, to suggest to her that a woman is duty bound not to spurn the timid entreaty of such an unfortunate man as I, that in the end all that I'm asking her is for merely to say a few brotherly words to me with sympathy, not to drive me away at the very first moment, to take me at my word, to listen to what I have to say, to laugh at me as she likes, to give me hope, to say a few words to me, just a few words, even if we were meet again afterward, even if we never meet again afterward. You're laughing, but then that's why I'm telling you. He is so me. Don't be annoyed. I'm laughing at the fact that you are your own worst enemy. And if you had tried, perhaps you might have succeeded. Even though it was all talking place on the streets, the simpler the better. Not a single kind-hearted woman, provided she wasn't silly or particularly angry about something at the moment, could have brought herself to send you away without those few words that you played for so timidly But what am I saying? Of course, she will have taken you for a madman. You see, I was judging by myself, but I know a lot about how people on this earth live. Oh, thank you, I cried out. You don't know what you've done for me today. Very well, very well. But tell me, how did you recognize me to be the sort of woman with whom you consider worthy of attention and friendship? In a word, not a landlady, as you put it. Why did you make up your mind to approach me? Why? Why? But you were alone. That gentleman was too brazen. It's night now. You must agree that this was my duty. That this was my duty. No, even earlier. There, on the other side. You wanted to approach me then, didn't you? There, on the other side? But I truly don't know how to answer. I'm afraid. Do you know, today I was happy. I was walking, singing. I'd been on the outskirts of the city. I'd never experienced such a happy moments before. It seemed to me, perhaps, well, forgive me for reminding you, it seems to me that you were crying, and I couldn't bear to hear it. It made my heart ache. Oh my God, surely I might feel pangs of anguish for you. Surely it was not a sin to experience brotherly compassion for you. Forgive me, I said compassion. Well, yes, in a word, could I really have offended you? Could I really have offended you by impulsively taking it into my head to approach you? Stop. Enough. Don't speak, the girl said, having cast her eyes downward and squeezing my hand. I'm the one who's guilty for bringing it up, but I'm glad that I wasn't mistaken about you. But here, I'm already home. I need to go that way down the lane. It's only a stone throw away. Goodbye. Thank you. But it is possible. Is it really possible that we shall never see each other again? Is it possible it will end like this? There, you see, the girl said, laughing. At first you wanted just 2 words, and now, however, I won't say anything. Perhaps we'll meet. I'll come here tomorrow, I said. Oh, forgive me, I'm already making demands. Yes, you're impatient. You're practically demanding. Listen, I interrupted her. Forgive me if I again say something not quiet. But here it is. I can't help coming here tomorrow. I'm a dreamer. I have solely told real life that I record such moments as this one, known to be so rare that I can't help repeating this moment in my dreams. I will dream of you all night, for an entire week, all year long. I will come here tomorrow, without fail, exactly here, to this very spot, exactly at this time, and I'll be happy as I recall what happened yesterday. This place is already dear to me. I already have 2 or 3 such places in Petersburg. Once I even shed tears because of a memory like you. Who knows, perhaps 10 minutes ago, you two were crying because of a memory, but forgive me, I have forgotten myself again. Perhaps at one time, you were particularly happy here. Very well, the girl said. Perhaps I will come here tomorrow, also at 10 o'clock. I said that I can't forbid you. The fact of the matter is that I have to be here. Don't think that I'm arranging a meeting with you. I'm warning you in advance that I need to be here for myself. But you see, well, I'll tell you frankly, it would be nice if you did come. In the first place, there might be some more unpleasantness like today. But that's beside the point. In a word, I'd simply like to see you so I could say a few words to you. Only please don't think ill of me now. Don't think that I arranged meetings so casually. I would have made one if, but let that be my secret. Only we must make an arrangement in advance. An agreement. Speak, tell me all beforehand. I'll agree to everything. I'm ready for everything. I exclaimed in delight. I'll answer for myself. I will be obedient, respectful. You know me. It's precisely because I do know you that I'm inviting you to come tomorrow, the girl said, laughing. I know you completely. But say that you come on the following condition. First, only be so kind as to do what I ask. You see, I'm speaking candidly. Don't fall in love with me. That's impossible, I assure you. I'm prepared to be your friend. Here's my hand. But falling in love is impossible. I beg you. I swear, I cried as I clasped her hand. Come, don't swear. You see, I know that you're capable of flaring up like gunpowder. Don't condemn me for speaking like this. If you only knew, I also have no one to whom I can say a word, from whom I can ask advice. Of course, the street is not the place to look for advisor, but you're an exception. I'll know you so well, as if you had been friends for 20 years. You won't betray me, will you? You'll see. Only I don't know how I'm going to survive the next 24 hours. Sleep well. Good night. And remember that I have already put myself into your hands. But your exclamation just now put it so nicely. Must one really account for every feeling, even for brotherly sympathy? Do you know that I was put so nicely that I suddenly thought, I might confide in you? By all means. But about what? What's it about? Until tomorrow, let it be a secret. In the meantime, it'll be better for you that way, although from a distance it will look like a love story. Maybe I'll tell you tomorrow, and maybe not. I'll talk with you a bit more first. We'll get to know each other better. Oh, and tomorrow, I'll tell you everything about myself. But what is this? It's as though a miracle were happening to me. My God, where am I? Well, tell me, aren't you glad that you didn't get angry as another woman would have done and drive me away from the very beginning? 2 minutes, and you have made me happy forever. Yes, happy. Who knows? Perhaps you have reconciled me with myself, resolved my doubts. Perhaps such moments overwhelmed me. Well, I'll tell you everything tomorrow. You'll learn everything about me. Everything. Very well, I accept. And you'll start first. Agreed. Goodbye. And we parted. I walked all night long. I couldn't make up my mind to go home. I was so happy. Until tomorrow. And that is the end of the first night and the end of the first chapter of this beautiful book. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have anything you want to say, please let me know down in the comment. If you made it this far, welcome to the club. It's a very specific club, okay? I've only done it in 2 other videos. This is the 3rd official video where you're invited to the club. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy. My name is Ivan, and this was White Nights by Dostoyevsky. I always have a good day and be good people. Bye.